Hi there, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we are casting over 336 square meter of decking right here in Rivers State, Nigeria. I'll show you the processes, the real cost, and of course give you some tips on how to save money in that your own project and still get a quality finish without cutting corners. Stay tuned as we take you through the process. So we've been on the construction of this, our luxury 6-bedroom duplex for some time now. And today we are going to continue talking about this construction and of course the decking. Just like we know, our decking construction starts with, first of all, carrying the beams, which is more or less like the formwork. Then after the formwork is completed, the reinforcement work takes place. And after the reinforcement work, then the electrical and plumbing work take place. After these are completed, of course, the work is inspected before the concrete is poured. So today we are going to take these things one after the other and talk about the important things to look out for in each of these stages, as well as how we did ours. And by the end of the day, we will tell you the materials we used and the cost. So the first activity, as we've mentioned for the decking, is the formwork preparation. Now, it's important to note that the strength of any decking starts before the concrete is poured. Now, so these are the things you need to do if you are supervising a construction project or if you have one being done for you. Now, ensure proper leveling of the formwork. You can use a spirit level to check whether there is any slope towards any side and ensure that the top is relatively on a plumb level. 2, you need to support the beams and props. The support beams and props must be tight and well braced to avoid sagging or collapse. There have been some situations where people were pouring the decking and the next thing you see is the supports moves and everything falls to the ground. It's a total waste and could even cause problem. Then the next is use oil or a release agent on formwork for easy removal. For us here, what we used is the DPM to cover the top of the formwork so that after casting, the boards will be easy to remove. Then the next thing is to check that the reinforcement bars have the right cover. So when you finish the formwork, ensure that the top and the bottom have at least 25 millimeters of concrete cover. This will help to prevent corrosion of the reinforcement bars. Now, just know that a weak formwork will equal to a wasted concrete. And of course, it could lead to dangerous failures in your building. The next thing after this is the reinforcement bars. Note that good reinforcement gives strength and shape to your building. Now, follow the structure structural drawings for bar sizes and spacing. This is very important. What you did in another building does not mean that that is what you will do in the one you are doing now. Follow the recommendations of the structural engineer. Now, tie bars firmly. No loose or floating rods. Then provide adequate lap lengths. When you are adding maybe the first reinforcement bar ended here, ensure you have up to between 400 to 600 millimeters overlapping. Then add spacers to lift the steel off the formwork. That's what we use concrete biscuit for in the site. Don't overload with unnecessary rods. It wastes money without adding strength. So a place you are told to use 16 mm, don't go and use 20 mm. Thing to look at is the concrete mixing and quality control. Note that the mix determines your slab's lifespan, and the common ratio that is used for slabs is 1:2:4. That's the cement sand granite ratio for decking. And one of the things you need to do is to ensure a clean and sharp sand as well as granite is supplied to you. The one that mixes with clay will give you a weak concrete by the end of the day, because it will affect the strength of the concrete. Now, maintain consistent water cement ratio, not too watery and not too hard. Then ensure that you always vibrate concrete to remove air pockets. Pour in layers, not patches, for uniform bonding. No, now, one of the things you need to do is to assign someone to monitor mix ratio, because mistakes here will weaken the entire structure. So you need to ensure that you go around in the site, ensuring that the mix is what you want by the end of the day. When you take these steps, you will get a better quality concrete by the end of the day. Then the fourth thing to look at is the weather and the timing. Timing matters as much as materials, right? So avoid pouring your concrete in heavy rain or scorching sun, because heavy rain will make it dry very slowly and scorching sun will make it dry very fast. If rain is expected, cover the formwork with tarpaulin. And this may sound like a lot, but that's a way of protecting your formwork. And if you have already used DPM to cover your formwork like we did here, you don't need to bother yourself. Then, as much as possible, pour continuously to prevent cold joints. Pour your concrete continuously. If possible, finish your decking the same day. That's actually the ideal. But if not, try as much as possible not to have so many joints. Then, the ideal thing is also to start pouring your concrete early mornings, because that's ideal. The temperature is still cool, and before it gets very hot, it has already started setting, so it will reduce the possibility of cracking. The next thing to talk about here, that's the fifth thing, is the labor and supervision. It's a no-brainer that good supervision prevents expensive mistakes. So have a site engineer or foreman supervising constantly. Make sure workers vibrate every section of your concrete properly. Then confirm beam and slab junctions are filled tightly. If any worker is tired, if any supervisor is tired, change the person. Do not overwork or overstretch your workers. Just know that one experienced supervisor saves more money than 10 extra laborers. It's very important you get a good one who is experienced, and of course, pay the person well to be happy to do the job. Then the sixth thing to look at here is the curing and aftercare. Most slabs fail not because it was badly done, but because it did not cure properly. So, start curing within 24 hours of pour. After casting your concrete, start curing, pouring water on top of it. Keep surface moist for at least 7 days if you can. That is actually the ideal. Avoid removing props too early. So you have to wait 14 to 21 days, depending on the span, before you can remove the props. Protect against heavy loads or vibrations during curing. So when your concrete is curing, do not overload it, because that alone could even cause other kind of problems for it. Then, one of the things, curing is cheaper than repairs. Water is your best friend during curing. This is very important, and note that. Now, the seventh thing to talk about today is the cost-saving tips without cutting corners. The key thing to understand here is efficiency saves money, not shortcuts. So one of the ways you can get this done is by buying your cement and granites in bulk and early. Of course, we know that in Nigeria, prices fluctuate by the day. So buy your stuff in bulk and store and use. 2, reuse your formwork where possible, if clean and straight. So when you're buying your formwork, it also means you have to invest on good quality formwork so you can reuse them. Again, the next thing is plan your logistics ahead, right? So you know that delays increase labor and makes a higher time. So if you know that you need 30 tons of chippings, make them available in the site, and not you bring 15 and say, okay, let them start work, then you bring the remaining one, and that will cause a kind of delay to your project if time is not taken. Now, one of the tips I want to give today is quality control saves money more than cheap labor. Yes, in the long run, you may think you are spending for quality now, but in the long run, you will actually be saving. So keep that in mind. The final thing we're going to talk about is about safety and team coordination. Safety keeps the project and team alive. So use stable scaffolding and safe access walkways when doing your jobs, particularly at a height. Provide gloves, boots, and helmets. I know this one is actually a very difficult thing because most of these unskilled laborers will refuse to wear them even if you give it to them in the site. Keep electric cables and mixers away from water and ensure everyone knows their task. Note that a well-coordinated concrete casting finishes faster and looks more professional. In all, whether it's a 36 square meters or 366 square meter decking that you are casting, note that these principles make all the difference, from strong formwork to proper curing. In construction, saving money is good, but saving quality is better. Now, let's talk about the materials that were used to achieve this decking. By the time the casting of this decking was completed, it was observed that the following materials had been used: 450 1 by 12 by 12, 300 2 by 3 by 12. The overland bamboo that was used were 350. Then, of course, both the 4 inches, the 2 inches, and 3 inches nails were 4 bags. Then the 16 rods were 85 lengths. 12 rods were 370 lengths. 8 rods were 70 lengths. Of course, the binding wire were 2 rolls. The cement used to cast this decking was 220. The granites that were used, that is the 30 tons granites, were 3 trips. That's more or less like 90 tons. Then the sand, the 15 tons sand, we used 5 of it. And of course, there were provisions for the electrical and plumbing pipings. Now, the total cost of all the materials used to cast this 336 square meter decking was 13,129,500 naira. Whereas the total cost of the labor, which includes the carpentry work, the iron work, the unskilled laborers that did one form of work or the other, as well as the casting of the decking, was 2,350,000 naira. And this brings the entire total to 15,479,500 naira. Thank you for being with us this far, and see you in the next one.